Good morning, everybody. In today's live session, we have a group of three students making a presentation, an introductory presentation on an article written by A.K. Ramanujan. The title of the article is On Translating a Tamil Poem. The group of the students are Khushi Makwana, Jyoti Mer, and Dhruvika Gohil. So let us request them to start with their presentation.
Hello everyone. Today our group will discuss topic on translating a Tamil poem by A.K. Ramanujan. So let's start. These are table of contents. First is abstract. This presentation explore A.K. Ramanujan's seminal essays on translating a Tamil poem from the collected essays of A.K. Ramanujan ed. Vinay Dharwadkar. The essay critically examines the linguistic, cultural, and poetic challenges involved in translating classic Tamil Sangam poetry into English. Ramanujan argues that the translation is theoretically impossible due to deep structural and cultural difference between languages, yet practically necessary and artistically achievable through informed creative strategies. This presentation offers a postgraduate level understanding of the essays by analyzing its research framework, core arguments, historical background, and scholarly contribution to translation studies and comparative literatures. Introduction. Translation is not merely a linguistic activity but cultural, historical, and poetic act. In this essay, A.K. Ramanujan reflects on the complexity of translating ancient Tamil poem written over 2000 years ago into modern English. He foregrounds the ideas that poetry exists within an entire cultural ecosystem, and translating a poem involves transporting this ecosystem across languages and cultures. The essay is both theoretical and practical, as Ramanujan demonstrates his arguments through close reading and translation of a Sangam poem. About author A.K. Ramanujan's time period was 1929 to 1993. A.K. Ramanujan was a poet, translator, folk lorist, linguistic, and scholar. He significantly contributed to Indian writing in English and comparative literature. His translation of Tamil and Kannada poetry introduced classical Indian texts and global readership. Ramanujan's scholarship bridge linguistic, anthropology, folklore, and poetics. His work emphasizes cross-cultural understanding and the limits of languages. Next is the research framework. Research problem: how can classic Tamil poetry root in highly specific linguistic, cultural, and symbolic system be translated into English without losing its poetic essence, cultural depth, and aesthetic structure? Objective: to examine the linguistic and cultural challenges of translating Tamil poetry, to demonstrate why literal translating is inadequate for poetry, to explain the Tamil poetic system Thinai Akkampuram to non-Tamil readers, to propose a creative and culturally sensitive approach to translations. Methodology: close textual analysis of a Sangam poem, comparative linguistics analysis between Tamil and English, use of example from phonology, grammar, syntax, and semantics. Cultural and anthropological interpretation of Tamil poetry traditions, self-reflexive analysis of the translator's own choices. Key findings: translations of poetry is inherently imperfect but artistically possible. Linguistic equivalence cannot ensure cultural or poetic equivalence. Tamil poetry functions within a complex intertextual and symbolic system. Successful translation and recreating poetic effect rather than reproducing from form. Now I would like invite to Khushi Makwana for further information.
Hello everyone, I am dealing with the key arguments, key points, and historical beginning or core content. So let's start. Key points. Translation is an act of the interpretation, not a replication. Languages have the independent sound system, grammars, and the synthetic structures. Tamil poetry encodes the meaning through the landscape, season, and the social context. A poem cannot be spreaded from its genres, tradition, and the cultural background. The translator must negotiate losses, substitutions, and the creative compressions. Key arguments. The impossibility of the literal translation. Poetry loses its the essence when the translated word for word. Language as a system. Phonology, grammar, and the syntax from closed systems unique to the each language. Cultural embodiedness. Words carry the culturally specific meaning that resists the direct the translation. In intertextuality, each poem that belongs to a larger network of the poems, genres, and the commentaries. Creative freedom. Only a free translation can approximate the original's poetic impact. Historical beginning. The classical Tamil poetry dates back over the 2 millennia, and it's among is the world's oldest surviving literary traditions. These poems were preserved through the palm leaf manuscripts and the later commentaries. Tamil poetry developed its own sophistic grammar and the poetic conflict in the text like the Tolkappiyam. Understanding this historical and the literary background is essential for any act of transition. Core content. Analysis of the sound system. Tamil is a 6 nasal versus English 3. Uh, Discuss of the grammar. Absence of article, copula verbs, and comparative adjectives in Tamil. Examination of the syntax. Tamil's left branches structures versus English right branches structures. Explanation of uh, Tinai system. 5 landscape associated with the specific moods, times, and the themes. Close reading of the what she said, illustrating sexual awakening and the movement from the cultural to natural. Translators' strategies. Indentions, reordering, selective the omis, and the semantic expression. So this is from my side. For further information, I would like to invite Jyoti Mer.
So, hello everyone, myself Jyoti Mer. My topic is core content analysis of sound systems, Tamil's 6 novels versus English 3, discussion of grammar, absence of articles, copula, verbs, and comparative objectives in a Tamil, examination of syntax, Tamil's left branching structures versus English right branching and syntax, explanation of Tinai system, 5 landscapes associated with specific moods, times, and themes. Close reading of what she said, illustrating sexual awakening and movement from culture to nature. Translators' strategies, identification, reordering, selective omission, and semantic expansion and linguistic depth in a translation. Tamil and English functions as a structural autonomous language systems, phonological mismatch, nasals, vowels, consonants, doubling and affects sounds, symbolisms, and rhythms. Grammatical absence of articles and copules, verbs in a Tamil. Alters ontological perception in a poetry. Translation requires a functional equivalence, not a formal equivalence. Linguistic laws in inevitable but can be authenticized through creative choices. And cultural semiotic and poetic system. Tamil Sangam poetry operates through a coded symbolic system, means Tinai landscape encode emotion, time, social behavior, and ethical norms. Meaning is contextual, not explicit, requiring cultural literacy. Poems are inseparable from the genre, tradition, and commentary. Translations must transfer cultural semiotics, not isolated metaphors. And translator's role and interpretative agency. Translator functions as an interpreter, cultural mediator, and a poet. Strategies include synthetic reshaping, semantic expression, and visual spacing, indentation, and line breaks, recreate Tamil suspense or progression. Selective omission prevents redundancy in English. Translation becomes a recreation of poetic experience, not duplication. Contemporary relevance in a globalized literary world. Ramanujan's essay challenges in the idea of smooth or neutral translating by emphasizing linguistic and cultural specificity. The essay remains crucial to post-colonial studies, resisting the dominance of English and affirming the autonomy of indigenous literary traditions. In the age of AI and the machine translation, Ramanujan highlights what technology cannot translate: cultural memory, emotional nuance, symbolism, and intertextuality. His self-reflexive approach anticipates modern translation theories that stress translator visibility and cultural negotiation. The essay offers an ethical and methodological framework for translating contemporary Indian regional literatures into global languages. Conclusion: A.K. Ramanujan's essay establishes that translating a Tamil poem means translating an entire world, its language, culture, landscapes, and literary systems. While perfect translation is impossible, thoughtful and informed translation can recreate poetic meaning and emotional resonance. The essay remains a foundation text in a translation studies and comparative literature. Future direction: further interdisciplinary research combining translation studies with digital humanities, comparative studies of other classical literatures and their translation challenges, exploration of reader response to translated classical texts and limitations. The essay demands prior language of linguistics and Tamil poetic. Focus is primary on a classical Tamil poetry, limiting generalization. And our learning outcomes: after studying this article, we will be able to understand translation as a complex cultural and a theoretical practice, and analyze poetry through linguistic, cultural, and structural framework, and apply concepts in intertextuality and system-based poetics, critically evaluate translated texts and translator strategies, and appreciate in Tamil in limits and possibilities of cross-cultural literary exchange. And this is our reference, and thank you. This is from my side.
So Ramanujan's
So, Dhruvika, my question is, how does Ramanuj distinguish between literary accuracy and poetic truth in translation?
So Ramanujan argues that literal accuracy focuses on word-to-word correspondence, which often distorts poetic meaning. Poetic truth, however, lies in recreating the emotional, cultural, and effect of the original poems. For him, successful translation priorities experiential equality over lexical fidelity. So that is from my side.
So my question is, why does Ramanujan reject the idea of neutral translator?
Ramanuj reject the neutrality because the translator has their own aesthetic choice and interpretation. So it is make his linguistic background and cultural knowledge that it's shown in her translation, that it making it more more it's highlight it, and rather than invisible mediator, it's interrupt with translator that shown that his linguistic background and language also. So he reject the neutral idea. So this is from our side. Thank you.
Okay, so we had a brief presentation, but still some very crucial points of the articles were not incorporated. I don't know from which source you prepared your PPT, but it doesn't seem that you have covered all the things from the article, from this particular article by A.K. Ramanujan. For example, a very important aspect. When we discuss in the class, the group members can give inputs if you have discussed this topic. Let me share a screen. A.K. Ramanujan tries to highlight the points that why it is difficult to translate Tamil poem into English language. And his one very interesting argument is about geography, how the geography can be translated. He makes an argument that Tamil Nadu is a land of mountains, forest, farmland, seashore, wasteland. All these 5 geographies are there. And in that, there is flora and fauna, the plants, the trees that they grow. And poets make use of flora and fauna as examples in their poems. The same plants growing in a forest and a wasteland have a different meaning also, sometimes very opposite meaning also. So if translator is not aware that this poet is making use of a flora and fauna from a wasteland or from a forest, he won't be able to translate it properly. And this intranslatability of a poem is very interestingly highlighted by him, that why the translator does not only require the information of language. In the previous article by Ganesh Devi, when he referred to Catford and Jacobson, he is trying to recall linguistic structuralist. So if I know language, if I know grammar, then I can translate. If I know 2 languages very well, their structures, their inter-linguistic aspect, intra-linguistic aspect, inter-semiotic aspect, if I am aware, then I can do. So even if it is a picture language from Japan or Chinese language, or a cinema, if I know the camera's language, if I can understand the background music, then I can do that translation. Here, A.K. Ramanujan says that beyond this, one also requires understanding of geography, from which literature is coming. And Tamil Nadu has a very diversified geography, from mountains to forests to farmland to seashore to wasteland. So it becomes sometimes very difficult. So this is a very core idea, which is very interesting idea in this essay. If it was read by the group members when we discuss in the class, you can give the inputs regarding that also. We had 2 questions by Nikita and Nirali. How does Ramanujan distinguish between literal accuracy and poetic truth? And why does Ramanujan reject the idea of a neutral translator? Okay. So, but a more general question, but specifically we will see what are arguments of A.K. Ramanujan in this particular essay and how it contributes to our understanding of research in translation studies. We'll continue in our classroom. We end this live stream here.